They said a mountain could never be moved. They said one ant could never change the fate of a colony. But when Anta pushed the first pebble, the mountain's fall had already begun. The sun poured gold and heat across the dry valley, turning every grain of dust into a shard of light. The air trembled in the heat, and the hard ground beneath thousands of tiny ant feet cracked like old pottery. The colony worked as it always had, in endless lines, disappearing into the distance along the long path that curved around the mountain. The mountain loomed like an ancient giant, its shadow sweeping over the colony each morning. It wasn't just a pile of rocks. It was a wall of stone and earth so wide and high that no ant could see its end. On the other side lay the richest valley in all the region, a place of abundance where seeds rained from the trees and fruits dripped with sweet nectar. But for as long as anyone could remember, the mountain had stood between the ants and that paradise. The elders had long declared it unchangeable. "The mountain is the mountain," they said. "We go around, always around." That way was long, dangerous, and costly. Many ants never returned. Yet to the colony, this was simply life. But Ant had never been content with "that's the way it's always been." Small, even for an ant, and often overlooked on work assignments, Ant had something the others didn't, an unshakable curiosity. Every time she marched with the foragers around the mountain, she would tilt her head back and study its slopes. The question burned in her mind. Why not go through? Her grandfather had told her stories when she was young, of ants who had done what no one believed possible, of dangers faced and won against. "The world is full of things that seem impossible," he used to say, "until someone refuses to believe it." That morning, as the rest of the colony began their long march around the mountain, Ant stayed behind. She walked to the very base where the mountain's stones sat in a great heap. Her eyes found a single pebble, no larger than her head, lodged in the dirt. She pressed her mandibles against it and pushed. It didn't move. She pushed again, digging her feet into the dusty ground. The pebble trembled, shifted, and rolled free with a crunch of dirt. A speck of sunlight slipped into the small hollow it left behind. It was the smallest victory imaginable, but to Ant, it was proof. The next day she came back and moved another pebble. The day after that, a small rock. She worked quietly, her effort drowned out by the sound of the foragers marching away. After a week, the others noticed. "What are you doing?" one asked, stopping to watch. "I'm moving the mountain," Ant replied. The worker laughed. "You can't move a mountain. No one can." "Maybe not in a day," Ant said, "but I can start." Word spread. Some mocked her openly. "She's wasting her time," they said. "We need food, not dreams." Others simply shook their heads and walked on. Ant ignored them. Each morning, she returned. The work was harder than she imagined. Some stones refused to budge. The sun scorched her back, dust clung to her legs, and by nightfall her body ached so badly she could barely crawl to her sleeping chamber. Still, she returned. Days turned into weeks. A small pile of removed stones grew at the base. The gap she'd opened was barely noticeable, but it was wider than before. Then the storm came. It started with a low growl in the distance. The sky darkened, the air thickened, and then the rain fell in torrents. Water rushed down the mountain's side, carrying mud and stones. Ant clung to a root as the gap she'd carved filled with debris. By the time the storm ended, almost all her progress was gone. She stared at the mess, her heart heavy. That night she lay awake, wondering if the others had been right. Maybe this really is impossible. But as the first light of dawn entered the nest, she heard her grandfather's words in her mind. "The world is full of things that seem impossible, until someone refuses to believe it." She rose and went back. The days passed. She dug out the mud, rolled away the stones, and began again. Her legs trembled, but her will held. Then one morning, she felt a rock shift more easily than expected. Turning, she saw another ant, a young worker, bracing against it with her. "I thought you could use some help," the young ant said. The next day, the helper returned with another friend. Within a week, there were 5 ants working at the base each morning. The elders frowned. "This is dangerous," they warned. "You're wasting strength we need for food." But the young ones didn't stop. They weren't helping because they were sure it would work. They were helping because ants' persistence had lit something inside them. With more hands, the work grew faster. The gap widened. Sunlight streamed through in golden slivers. The mountain struck back. One afternoon, a deep rumble shook the ground. Pebbles rained from above, then a landslide of dirt and rock slammed into the gap, burying it half closed. The helpers stood in stunned silence. "It's no use," one whispered. "Every time we win, the mountain takes it back." Ant's body shook with fatigue. She wanted to agree, but instead she stepped forward and set her mandibles on the nearest stone. "We start again," she said. And they did. Through blistering heat, through cold mornings when frost touched the stones, they worked. Sometimes helpers didn't show up. Sometimes only Ant came. But she never stopped. Season after season, the gap grew. Then one day, they reached the last obstacle, a massive boulder wedged in the narrow pass. It was smooth, heavy, and without a single crack to grip. "This is it," Ant said. "We move this, and we're through." The others stared. "We can't move that," one said. "Not alone," Ant replied, "but maybe together." Word spread. That afternoon, the entire colony came. For the first time, elders, foragers, nurses, and builders stood side by side. Ant climbed a stone to be seen. "Today, we move the last stone. Not because it's easy, but because we've already done the hardest part. We didn't give up. Now we finish it together." They swarmed over the boulder, hundreds of legs bracing. "1, 2, 3, Ant called. The boulder didn't move. Muscles ached. Feet slipped. "Again!" she shouted. It shuddered. Dust rained down. "One more!" With a groan like the earth itself, the boulder rolled forward. The ant surged with it until it crashed into the green valley beyond. Silence. Then cheers so loud they seemed to shake the mountain itself. Through the tunnel stretched the richest valley they had ever seen. Seeds scattered like treasure, fruits dripping with nectar, streams glinting in the sun. The long, dangerous march was over. Ant stood quietly, looking back at the mountain. It still towered above, but through its heart ran a clear, open path. Proof that even the immovable could be changed. Generations later, young ants would ask how the path was made, and the elders would smile and say, "One ant moved the first pebble. The rest followed." This story gives a lesson that one ant cannot move a mountain in a day, but one ant can move the first pebble, and that is how mountains begin to fall.